恭敬大德善听，为施法为济界众生，君转妙法轮，教导我们如何疗伤或思离苦得乐。速战无伤. Will the Sangha with great virtue, out of compassion, for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma wheel to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one. Namo sadanto suchetoye alahati sanmiao sanputo che. 无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in a billion eons. But now we see and hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Namo, quelling disasters, lengthening life, Medicine Master Buddha. 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 Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one, Medicine Master does come one. Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Venerable Master, and all good knowing advisors, Amitabha. Welcome to Sutra number 130. Okay, let me get today's slides up for today. I thought I would begin today with a quote from a sutra that I just read about 20 minutes ago. It's from a sutra called the Bahudatuka Sutra, or the multitude of elements, or dharmas with a small d, meaning elements. It says, the Buddha says, Ananda, it is thus, whatever dangers arise, all of them arise from foolishness, not from being learned. Foolishness here refers to ignorance. So it says, whatever calamity, whatever harm, contagious illness, or conflict arises, all of them arise from ignorance, not from being learned. So not from wisdom. Okay, in case you're wondering what is the the title, what does elements refer to? Elements refer to uh, our six sense consciousnesses: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. And then the 12 dependent links of origination, and then what is possible and what is impossible, or in other words, cause and effect. Okay, all right, let's move on. Okay, we are continuing today with mindfulness of virtue. And last week, a quick recap, we ended here. We talked about the Buddha being the king of physicians, the Dharma being good medicine, the Sangha being the nurse that administers the medicine, and then virtue is our willingness to submit ourselves to taking the, says here, medical regime. That means doing the exercises, taking the medicine, keeping ourselves healthy, curing our own illness, that we have to do. So that's part of mindfulness of virtue. And then we also talk about the 4 aiding practices, which Ron requested to know more about. So today what we have is, I found Shufu's talks. Shufu gave 3 talks that are compiled, 2 in the Chan Handbook and 1 in the compilation called the Treasure Trove. Here Lies Within, the Treasure Trove, which is inside. So this is where we ended last week. It says, at the beginning, the practitioner obtains the impure good roots called heat, summit, and patience, which are developed in the beginning, intermediate, and final minds. And then when he penetrates into the pure mind, constituting the first moment of the path of seeing, he is perfected quickly in one instant. Here, there is no distinction between initial, intermediate, and final minds. So what is this? What are the 4 aiding practices? I never knew until last week. The 4, excuse me, I seem my throat, because I don't think I spoke at all today, maybe not more than 20 words. So I think my throat is suffering from lack of exercise. So anyway, what are the 4 aiding practices? The 4 aiding practices is what makes the difference between mundane people and a sage. Sage including from a stream enterer, a first level arhat, to a full-fledged 4th level arhat. It is if you ever wondered how you become a stream enterer, at the very least, okay, how you want to embark on the journey to end birth and death, and the first level, which is stream enterer. It is the next few slides that we're going to go through that explains exactly how, or exactly what we need to do to achieve stream enterer. So to be a stream enterer is actually closer than all of y'all think, because perhaps in your past lives, you may have cultivated really well, and you must have, because you're all now listening to the Dharma, which is not an easy thing to do. But we don't know without the ability to look, excuse me, without the ability to look at our past lives, we don't know how close we are. So the only thing we can do is to create the conditions that are conducive to find out. That's all we can do. There's a story of the Patriarch Xuanzang, who went from China to India to bring back the sutras. And on his journey to India, he found a cave, and there was this meditator who was in the cave, who was there for so long that he looked more like a statue than a person. I think all of you know this story. So Venerable Xuanzang rang a bell, a hand bell, to bring this meditator out from his samadhi or concentration. And then he asked the meditator, he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm waiting for Shakyamuni Buddha to come so I can help Shakyamuni Buddha propagate the Dharma." Then Venerable Xuanzang told him, "Oh, it's been, let me see, I don't remember at least 1,000 years, I think, maybe after the Buddha's time. So he told the meditator, he said, oh, Shakyamuni Buddha has come and gone, and you miss your chance. And then the meditator said, oh, is that so? Well, I think I'll go back into meditation and wait for the next Buddha to come, which is Maitreya Buddha, and that's going to take, I think, a few billion years. So Venerable Swanjang said, no, you probably miss him again. Why don't you go get reborn and give him instructions, which house to go get reborn in the east? And he said, when I come back from my travels, I'll come and look for you. And the meditator, probably a bit confused, sitting in samadhi for so long, he got reborn in the wrong house. Instead of the emperor of China's palace, he got reborn in the general's mansion instead. And then he grew up surrounded by food, wine, and women, and he forgot all about his past life until Venerable Swanjang came back to China, created a plan and to force him to become a monk, which he didn't want to do. And on his way to the monastery, when he heard the bell of the monastery, then he remembered his past life. So all of you who don't know what you used to do before, the only thing that we can do is to create the right conditions. Okay, and what are the right conditions? Okay, we're going to find out. But first, I have to explain to you what the 5 paths are. Okay, it's called the Pancha Marga. Pancha is Sanskrit for 5, number 5. So it says the path that the practitioner travels from the mundane ground to the ground of sagehood. This incidentally was my paper for one of my subjects at DRBU when I did my master's there, which I didn't finish, by the way, one semester left. But anyway, the first path is the path of accumulation. What do you accumulate? You accumulate good roots. We are not all on this path. When do you get on this path? Okay, you get on this path when you develop a strong desire or wish, or you make a vow to overcome suffering. You want to end birth and death, either for yourself, that means you walk the sound hearer or the Arhat path, or you want to do it because you want to save other people. Maybe you want to be like Guan Yin, you want to be a bodhisattva like Guan Yin. So that's what we call generating the Bodhi resolve. So when you have that reflection in yourself and you do something about it, then congratulations, you are on the path of accumulation. Okay, so when you hear there's a term, good roots. Normally people say, oh, you must have a lot of good roots. Or, people say, oh, he has good roots, good roots, good roots. What are good roots? These are the good roots. So what do you do at this stage of the path? Well, you can, this stage includes both lay people as well as monastics. And this is when you begin to take precepts, you begin to generate merit, and you begin to hone your concentration. You don't have wisdom yet at this stage. You only have mundane wisdom or right view. So how do you get your mundane wisdom about the Dharma? Well, you study the sutras, you study the commentaries, you do listening, like right now, you do reflection, which is a big reason why I always ask about questions, and which I have not asked yet. So I'm going to ask right now, if any of you have any questions. In the beginning, there have been, it's not in the recording, but Melinda had some questions. I think Ron had some questions too about the sutra that I shared on WhatsApp. So if you have any questions, unmute your microphone or just type it into the chat box. Melinda, I'm still waiting for you to type up your question. So reflection. And when you ask questions, I get to reflect on the Dharma myself. So it's for us to think things over. And you also develop wisdom through insight. Insight comes from reflection. And then the second one is precepts. So on the path of accumulation, we observe precepts, the 5 precepts, the 8 precepts, the 10 precepts if you become a monastic, Then the Bhikshu and Bhikshuni precepts, which are 200 over or 300 over precepts, and then the Bodhisattva precepts as well. And that's where we learn how to control our senses, meaning how we react to sights, sounds, smells, tastes, feelings, our thoughts and emotions. Basically, how we engage with the world. In other words, that's where precepts come in. And this is also called nutriment, like as in sustenance, how we engage with the world, what we are feeding ourselves. Then merit, okay, merit is what we do when we do acts of generosity, when we study the sutras, when we memorize, say, the mantras, when we chant the Buddha's name, when we try to meditate, we try to develop wholesome mental states like loving kindness. For example, you generate merit if you do all of that with right intention. You have to have right intention. If you don't have right intention, it's not considered merit. Okay, so what is right intention? You do it with the wish that you get, that you are lessening your desire. So you're doing it with the wish for renunciation. You're doing it with the wish of goodwill or loving kindness and harmlessness. Okay, you want everyone to be happy. If you study the Dharma and you practice the Dharma with right intention, then you generate merit. Okay, so far we've talked about precepts, we've talked about merit, and then the next one, we talked about wisdom as well. Okay, mundane wisdom. And then the next one is concentration. And that's how you get to transcendental wisdom or proper wisdom. And that marks you on the stage of a sage. So what do we concentrate on? This is the preparatory stage. This is not, full-blown concentration like the monk sitting in the cave waiting for Shakyamuni Buddha to come. Not that kind of concentration yet, not deep samadhi. So it's the beginning of the meditation topic. Can anyone answer me what meditation topic? It's a hint of what we've been studying for the last few weeks. Okay. I know Malaysians generally don't like to speak much. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Anyway, what are the meditation topics? Mindfulness of the Buddha. That's the first one. Okay, if you are reciting the Buddha's name, for example, the Pure Land practice, reciting Amitabha Buddha's name, that's mindfulness of the Buddha. Second one is mindfulness of the Dharma. Third, mindfulness of the Sangha. Fourth is mindfulness of our virtue, which is exactly what we are studying right now. And then the sixth one, depending on how we go through today, probably not today, most likely next week, is mindfulness of generosity. Okay, so now you know why we are studying all this. Basically, everything that I've been, for the last 2-3 years, that I've been sharing with all of you, is all about how to become at least a first stage arhat. Okay, so now you know what's the point of all this. It's to learn how to become at the very least, a first stage arhat. Okay, so once you pick your meditation topic, which we've been covering, what do? You begin to learn how to concentrate on the topic. So this is called access concentration. It's not absorption concentration, which is full concentration, but it's called access concentration. So you learn how to stay on, say, reciting the Buddha's name. And then you go on to the next section, which is absorption, the next level of concentration. It says that this is achieved when you leave behind the previous object of concentration. So when you recite the Buddha's name, and you recite and recite and recite until you come to a stage, maybe some of you have experienced this, I hope you have, when your mind is so quiet, you feel as if even reciting the Buddha's name is too much. Yeah, your mind is so calm, so quiet, so serene that you can maintain your concentration without reciting the Buddha's name. And it's a very natural process. You just feel like you are able to just let it go. Shifu says you are reciting and yet not reciting. Something like that. You have to figure it out yourself. Don't rely on the words, rely on your actual experience. And then what do you do? Okay, according to the text, this is when you move on to the next stage where you start to do the four limitless practices. For the four limitless practices, this is when your development of loving kindness can be expanded to the whole world. Why? Because your mind is very calm. You don't have your baggage on all the things that you like and don't like disturbing your mind anymore. So you can develop your loving kindness. You can start to develop your compassion, your empathetic joy, and equanimity in a full way. Yeah. Okay. So what happens after that? That's where, if you look at your screen, you get on the path of added effort. Okay. So why am I spending so much time on number one? Because the next few slides on number two is Shofu explaining what happens on number two, okay, which is the heat and the summit for patience, and then the supreme worldly dharmas. Shofu calls this foremost in the world. It means that you're at least at the stage of a stream enterer already. Okay, so you all should be very happy. Why? Because you're all here at the level of accumulating good roots. Whether you are actually accumulating good roots or not is up to you, right? But I think all of you are. If not, you wouldn't be here at all. Okay. So I'm not going to go into number 3, 4, and 5, because then the whole topic for today will be skewed towards the 5 paths. But I'm just introducing the 5 paths so that we can talk about, we can explore 1 and 2. Okay. But in case you're interested, that's why I included the Sanskrit terms that you can search for yourself. Okay. But to give you a very quick summary, all right, number 2 is what we're going to be discovering in the next few slides. Number 3 is when, because in number 2, your meditation has gone deeper, what happens is at number 3, the Four Noble Truths, okay, the Four Noble Truths in its 16 aspects. Yes, there are 16 aspects because there are 4 separate ways of looking at each of the Noble Truths. So 4 times 4, you get 16. You start to see the Four Noble Truths from your own experience. That means it's no longer like me talking about Four Noble Truths, or you read about Four Noble Truths. No, it's the Four Noble Truths start making sense because you see it from your point of view. Okay, so that happens at stage 3. And then let me see. And then at stage 3, let me say stage 4. At stage 4, that's where the 10 fetters start to dissolve. Yeah, something like that. And then stage 3 is when you understand the Four Noble Truths from your own experience, you start dissolving the 10 fetters. And then stage 4 is, let me see, you have eliminated all future rebirth. All your future rebirth will never happen in the 3 lower realms of the hells, the hungry ghosts, and of animals. You are 100% assured that you will never be reborn in those 3 lower realms anymore. Yeah, that's at number 4. And then at number 5, you are a full-fledged arhat. He says there's nothing more to learn. That's what it means. But that's from the perspective of samsara, not from the perspective of becoming a Buddha, because there's a whole lot more to do if you want to become a Buddha. Okay? All right. So having confused you all or given you all too much about that, let's come back to stage number 1, path of accumulation, which is where we all are right now. Maybe not all of you, maybe some of you have advanced. And then now we're going to look at number 2, the path of added effort. All right, called the 4 aiding practices. What is that? Okay, this is what Shufu says. Shufu says, this is from the Chan handbook. Shufu says, investigating Chan requires non-movement of the mind and thoughts, and this means silence. The Chan method works like the thrust of a knife, cutting right through. Cutting what? Through our ignorance. Because Chan investigation is apart from the mind consciousness, it is known as putting an end to the mind. Ending the mind means ending all mental activities of the mind consciousness. So for those of you who are trying to meditate, and sometimes you have questions like what to do with the mind, anything to do with the mind that you're using, which you use on a day-to-day basis, that's what Chan investigation is supposed to overcome. So Chan meditation is apart from that. Okay, so you have to use your mind in a different way. Shiva says, only when all the activities of the false mind are stopped will thoughts be silenced. When that happens, we gain the power of knowing and seeing that comes with suddenly enlightening to the non-arising of things. So that marks the spontaneous arising of your true wisdom. Okay. Shiva says, we then have patience with the non-arising of people and dharmas. And we certify to 4 stages of practice, which are heat, summit, patience, and first in the world. So, see the first sentence, we then have patience with the non-arising of people and dharmas. This is where you stop doing stupid things, like in the verse that I shared in the beginning. Because you're at this level, if you are in the state of meditation, then you could say that you're not overcome by your ignorance. But unfortunately, at this level, we have not yet eliminated ignorance. It's still there. Okay, so how do we eliminate? First, you have to go through the stage of heat. Shifu says this is a physical sensation. Okay, it's not metaphors. So Shifu says at heat, this warm energy comes as we sit in meditation. So because Shifu has 3 talks, and I'm going to share today, I'm not going to explain too much because Shufu explains it in the other 2 talks. Okay. Then Shufu says, summit, the energy rises to the crown of our head as we continue to practice. Patience is when it becomes very difficult to be patient, but we must still be patient. And then number 4, first in the world, we become a world transcending great hero. That's when you are at least a stream enterer. Okay. So Shufu says, if we want to attain these 4 stages, we must first learn to silence the mind. Our mind consciousness must remain unmoving. Our thoughts are like waves that cannot be calmed. Sitting in meditation aims at stopping the mind consciousness from moving. Eventually, it stops naturally. Once stopped, the mind is silent. When it is completely silent, wisdom comes forth. When wisdom arises, we become self-illuminating. That is the power of knowing and seeing that comes with sudden enlightenment to the non-arising of all things. And Shufu ends it with a verse. He says, when silence reaches an ultimate point, the light penetrates everywhere. In the Heart Sutra, it says, when Bodhisattva Avalokitesvara was practicing the profound prajna paramita, he eliminated the 5 skandhas and he left all distorted dream thinking behind. This is what it means. Okay, so now you know how you get there by walking the pancha magga, the 5 paths. All right. Okay, so knowing is one thing, walking is another thing. So this is a different Dhamma talk that Shufu gave. So here Shufu says, when sitting in meditation, the underside of the tongue touches the roof of the mouth. This is the point where the 2 channels of Ren and Du connect. When these 2 channels are clear, then the circulation of energy and blood is also clear and one feels at ease. For those of you who, how would I say this, are in tune with your chi, you know exactly what this means. If not, then you need to practice more. Shufu says, when there is saliva in the mouth, swallow it into the stomach. Doing this frequently is just like using sweet dew to water and nourish a young Bodhi sprout. After sitting for some time, a warm energy fills the body and it may become very hot. At this stage, certain changes begin to occur. What are the changes? First one is heat, but before we get there, some of you may be aware there are stories about how monks in the Himalayas, they are able to meditate in the snow and with very, very minimal clothing, and they don't feel cold. Okay. Shufu has stories about himself during winter in China as a novice monk. He will only wear 3 layers of that single layer cotton cotton robes that monks wear, and sometimes he will go around barefoot. So ordinary people can't do that. So one hint is this, okay, the feeling of heat. And last week I mentioned, if you are meditating in CDTB during the chant session during winter, I think anyone who sits in full lotus, I'm not sure whether it will be everyone, but I've experienced it and I've heard people speak about it. When you can sit in full lotus, then you don't feel cold. Yeah, but the moment you put your feet down, then you start to feel the cold all around you. Yeah, okay. So let's go to the first stage, heat. Shufu says, heat is the first stage. This warmth originates at the cinnabar. Cinema is also known as the dantian. So it is the point just behind the navel, and then from there it spreads to the whole body and circulates back to the cinnabar. This warm energy circulates like that again and again during the stage of heat. So if you can control your Qi, you can control it from the dantian, goes down to the back of your spine, goes up to the top of your head and come down again. Or you can do the reverse. It can be very interesting. Or you can do what they call the I don't know, I can't remember the term. What they call the full cycle. The full cycle is that it goes to your feet, then comes back up through all the way down to your feet, your legs and your feet, and it comes back up, and then it goes up the back of your spine, and it splits into your arms, and then up to your fingers. It comes back to your shoulder blades, then it goes up to the top of your head, and it goes down all the way to the dantian, and then it goes to the lower point, and then it splits again to your feet, and you can do whatever you want with it. Yeah. Then when you can do that, number 2 is called the second stage, the summit. When you have experienced the warmth for some time, during which your body's chemical plant, Shufu calls this the inner Tai Chi, has done the necessary experiments, you will then reach the summit. At this point, you will sometimes you hear people asking about like the body moving by itself, twitching, or sometimes some people jump up and down. The body kind of hops. It is like involuntary movements. I heard Shufu explain that this is because you have blockages in your, as the energy circulates, you have blockages. So you just have to sit until the blockage resolves itself. Yeah. Shufu says, at the summit, you feel as if there is something at the top of your head, yet there appears to be nothing there. If you say there is something, you cannot see or touch it, you only experience this feeling at the top of your head, and you will invariably feel it is indescribable. Some people say it feels like you have ants crawling on your scalp. Yeah, I think for different people is different, is individual. And then the next stage is called patience. After the summit stage, you begin to experience an unbearable feeling. No matter how unbearable this feeling is, you have to endure it. This is known as the stage of patience. After the summit stage comes the stage of patience. It is very difficult to pass the stage of patience because of the discomfort associated with the top of your head. it seems as if there is something trying to drill a hole through the outside. At this point, you have to be very patient. As time goes by, the drill penetrates through and emerges from the top of your head, just like a little bird that has been set free from its cage. And like a freed bird, you will be exceptionally happy. Okay, so I'm not sure if it's parallel to this, but they are on the yoga side for practitioners. They what's the word for it? Is it Kundalini? There is a specific practice that aims to achieve this. Yeah, I'm not familiar with the teachings, but I just kind of know of that. I'm not sure if it's the same. And then number 4 is called first in the world. And Shiva says getting free is called being foremost in the world. So this is when you become a arhat, either first stage or higher. This can refer to having the world's foremost patience. It is known as being the world's number 1 great personage or the world's number 1 great hero. Being peerless, you are known as number 1 in the world. Even so, you will still have to be careful and continue to cultivate every day. Okay, so this is when why you're called first in the world is because you have overcome the world. Yeah, that's where you are. You are supreme. Okay, so now we go to another article, another Dharma talk by Shifu. This is taken from Here Lies the Treasure Trove. And here Shifu talks about, he says, heat. When you start attaining some skill from your cultivation and chant meditation, your body will experience the sensation of heat. It will be filled with heat. This heat melts all illnesses away, also your afflictions. It is like a spring sun which melts away the ice. The heat is young and is very healthy and vital. So heat is the first stage. Then this heat circulates around your body and rises to the top of your head so that you feel the heat on the summit of your head at all times. That is the next state, summit. So at summit, Shifu says, at this time, the pressure becomes very hard to bear, and you can't find ways to relieve the pressure or get the heat out. So you have to be very patient. Therefore, the next stage is called patience. So it says, it's like the commentary say this at this stage is like you have reached the summit of a mountain. It's like you're climbing Everest and you reach the very top. And what happens when you reach the very top? It says you cannot, either you continue to ascend, which can seem impossible because you have nowhere else to go. Shofu calls this when you reach when you climb 100-foot pole and you reach the end, then you take another step, which doesn't make sense because you have reached the top of the pole, right? So this is what being at the summit is like. You feel as if there's nowhere else to go. So the only way is to take that seemingly impossible step, or you retreat, and you come back down the mountain. So usually, okay, if you are new to this, you will retreat and then you go back to the level of heat and then you try again. You go up, down, until you make a breakthrough. Yeah, usually. Okay, anyway, then you get to patience. Shiva says you can be patient long enough and keep on applying unstinting effort. Then suddenly you make a breakthrough. There you go. The heavenly gate on the crown of your head will open as the original Dharma body manifests. It swells up, filling all of empty space and the Dharma realm. That level of achievement is known as foremost in the world, and there's an actual term for it. Okay, it's a Buddhist term, because you are tops with regard to all mundane dharmas. Nothing in the world controls you anymore. Okay, or has any influence on how you feel. Shiva says, but this doesn't mean that you call yourself number 1. Rather, the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas recognize and praise such attainment as being number 1. So you're foremost in the world, okay, but that's only in respect to the mundane world. Okay, as to the rest of the path to becoming a Buddha, you still have a long way to go. So Shifu says those are the 4 aiding practices. They are not easy to attain. Cultivation is not easy. Yeah. All right. At this point, do we have any questions?
Sure, I'd like to ask,
Yes, Ron.
in any of these stages, the four stages, is that like seeing your self nature, or is it beyond, or seeing the self nature is beyond that?
Okay, so this particular slide right now on your screen. That's when you become foremost. That's when your self nature reveals itself. Yeah.
Okay, great.
When I say reveals itself, I mean in a manner that's permanent. So it's not you get a glimpse of your self nature. So along the way, if I'm not mistaken, you will get glimpses of your self nature. But what happens is because your mind is quiet, so you understand certain things, you get certain insights. But what happens is when you come out of meditation, you are back in the state where your sixth consciousness, your mind consciousness, takes over, and then you have no choice. You fall back into your old habits. You know better. Okay, you know that there is something beyond that because you have experienced it. But
Sure.
because you, yes,
Sorry to
Ron.
bother you, but I missed what you just said to explain how you fall back.
Yeah, because it is not a permanent state. You just get it's like someone opens the curtains on the window. You see it, and then the curtains close back because you're not pulling back the curtains on the rail. You are just moving the curtains. You're just pulling up the curtains. You're not pushing the curtains to one side. So it's not permanent. So you get a glimpse because your mad mind stops for a while, but your mad mind will come back again. And when your mad mind comes back again, because you are still under, um, you are still bound to emotions. And when the emotions come back, that's the most difficult part because your anger comes back, your jealousy comes back, your likes and your dislikes come back, everything comes back. And although you know better, because they're emotions, it's really, really hard to overcome emotions. That's where you see how, that's where at that moment you understand why the Buddha said it is very, very difficult to get people to understand the meaning of the Dharma. Because the true mind, our true nature is with us all the time. That's what the Shurangama Sutra says, and it's true. It's with us all the time. Right now, all of us are using our true nature. It is so close to us. But at the same time, because of our ignorance, because we haven't tasted our true nature, what it's like, it seems like really, really far. Like learning about the 5 paths, the first and second, it seems like it's a really hard thing to do, and it is. But when you see it, you realize, oh, it's been here all the time. When I sleep, when I wake up, when I go about my daily life, I'm actually using my true nature all the time. But you don't know. Why? Because we're covered with ignorance. So it is until you reach this stage, you may have seen glimpses of your true nature, but it's not permanent. But you know, at least you know. You say, oh, okay, now I know what everything is all about. I know what these sutras are trying to say. I know what they're trying to say. But you are back to your old self. Then you realize you have to keep on practicing until one day it becomes permanent.
Oh, sure.
Yes.
Sorry, keep interrupting you, but yeah, you just hit on topics that are just so great, so wonderful. Um, when you past the patient stage, you then the self nature reviews itself. Is this what is called awakening to Bodhi, or is this Bodhi?
Yes, or to part of the body, depending on whether you're first, second, third, or fourth stage of Arhat.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Why I ask is because my lexicon in this subject is so limited. I'm just trying to understand the words that I use. Even.
Yeah, it's fine because the whole purpose of this is not to master the words or the topic. It's not to know the topic inside out, although it helps. The whole point of this is to know that we can all get there, that it is attainable, that it all depends on our good roots that we are all accumulating right now, and to also know that we should not sell ourselves short, to know that we should always try our best. Just try our best. Because none of the people who get enlightened plan that they're going to get enlightened. All they can do is practice. So if you look at the poems, there's a collection of poems from all the from not all, there's a collection of poems of enlightened monks and nuns during the Buddha's time. They're called the Tathagata or the Tathagata. And they describe how they get enlightened. Some of them, they are sweeping and they hit a piece of a pebble, and the pebble hits a bamboo tree. It creates a sound and they get enlightened. Then you have Elder Master Xu Yun, Lao Hesang, Elder Master Xu Yun, who dropped the teacup and the cup broke and he got enlightened. There's a nun who was contemplating the Dharma, about to sleep in her kuti, which is a hut, and she turned off the lamp, the oil lamp, and that extinguishment of the lamp caused her to get enlightened. So the Buddha was sitting under the Bodhi tree. He saw the star in the sky and he got enlightened. So all these seemingly random occurrences is because they all create the right conditions for that to happen. It's as simple as that. You can't plan it. You can only create the right conditions. So what are creating the right conditions? That's the first stage. The accumulation of good roots. Be mindful of the Buddha, be mindful of the Dharma, mindful of the Sangha, practicing loving kindness. Those are all accumulation of good roots. As long as we do that, and if we put in our best effort, then we are maximizing our chances from all the merit that have been accumulated through all our past lives, and we are giving ourselves the best chance. Yeah. That's all we can do. Okay? Anyone else? No? Okay, and you all can get there by just reciting the Buddha's name. Yeah. Yes, Ron.
What I was going to say is that was a lot. I mean, it's a lot to digest.
Yeah, just go recite the Buddha's name.
Yeah. Thank you.
So where does it happen? In your next thought. Yeah. It can be very difficult if you start thinking about the future. But in your where does it happen? It can only happen in one instance, and that instance is in your very next thought. And if you miss that opportunity, then in your next thought, and then in your next thought, and in your next thought. So it's always right next to you. It's always in your next thought. What are you doing in your next thought? That's all. It's very simple. I mean, from that perspective, it's very simple. Yeah. Okay, so let's look at Melinda's question. Melinda said, Buddha said to the monks to end suffering needs, number one, directly knowing a complete understanding of all. Okay, and number two, having this passion for it and giving it up. My question is on number 2, to end suffering also need samadhi or concentration. I think I've answered your question, right, Melinda? To end suffering, which is at this level of patience, where that's where samadhi ends. So sorry, that's where you samadhi. That's how you see samadhi come into play. From precepts, you get concentration or samadhi. All right, so virtue or precepts, then you get from virtue or precepts, you develop concentration, and then from concentration or samadhi, you can break through the conscious mind or the 5 skandhas. In the Heart Sutra, it says you illuminate the 5 skandhas because you see them for what they are. And then the next step is your wisdom gets uncovered. Does that answer your question, Melinda?
Yes, Master. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. So you need to end birth and death. Okay. To end birth and death, you need to meditate. That's a must. All right. But to end suffering, okay, well, if you look at most of the texts that the Buddha spoke to lay people, the Buddha talked about how to be a good person, and the Buddha talked about generosity, which, okay, is our next topic, which we're not going to go through today. I'm going to show you on the screen. The next topic is mindfulness or renunciation or generosity. I'm not going to try to pronounce the Sanskrit because I don't know how. All right. That's what the Buddha usually teaches. And because the Buddha knows that for lay people, it is really, really hard to practice meditation like how a monastic can devote their time and effort towards. Because you all have responsibilities. You have to take care of your children, you have to take care of your husband, you have to take care of your wife, take care of your business, your career, your house, your car, etc., etc., etc. You take care of monastics. Lay people have to take care of monastics too. So Buddha understands. So what the Buddha would teach lay people is not so much about meditation. He did, for example, like thanks to Queen Vaidurya, the Buddha taught the Pure Land Sutra called the Visualization of Amitabha Buddha, or the Visualization of the Pure Land. I can't remember which one. But basically, Queen Vaidurya was so fed up with suffering in life. Why? Because her own son wanted to kill her father and wanted to kill her as well, but was prevented by the son's ministers. So she thought life was really miserable. And she asked the Buddha, is there a better place she can go to? And the Buddha taught her the Pure Land. Okay. So with certain exceptions, the Buddha would usually teach about generosity. Why? Because generosity is where you can get reborn in the heavens. Usually the Pure Land, they say that getting reborn in the heavens is not a good thing. Why? Because in the heavens you have a lifespan and your lifespan will end. That is true if you go to the heavens and you don't practice the Dharma. So that's true. But if in your human life right now, you are already developing the good roots, you're already close to the Dharma, you're already developing the Dharma. But despite your efforts, you feel that meditation is not the right Dharma door for you. Okay. So what the Buddha says is you practice generosity and you get reborn in the heavens. And then when you're in the heavens, like for example, where Maitreya Buddha, who is in the Tushita heaven, okay, giving Dharma talks right now, teaching the gods. If you get reborn in the Tushita heaven, you can go listen to the Dharma with Maitreya Bodhisattva right now. And when he makes his plan to come down to Jambudvipa to be reborn as the next Buddha, you can take part and, be reborn at the same time and become one of his monks or his nuns. You can do that because you have the ability to do that then. So if you are close to the Dharma, the Buddha says you can practice generosity, which is our next topic. Go get reborn in the heavens, continue practicing your Dharma, and then you can advance from there. And that's one way where you can get away from suffering. But it's kind of dicey because you don't have control. You're not quite sure. You are not fully in control yet because you haven't ended birth and death. So during your point of death, you don't know what can happen, So that's why it's dicey. And number two, you're not quite sure what you were going to do in the heavens. Usually when you're reborn in the heavens, as we have discovered, you can remember your past lives. But also, as we have discovered, you can also quickly forget your past lives because you, you get consumed by the pleasures, the blessings that awaits you in heaven. Yeah, there's a story which I shared before in a previous lecture. There's a person who was born there, they recalled their past life, and then just as quickly they forgot because they started enjoying their heavenly pleasures. Yeah, so it can get a bit dicey. Yeah, so Pure Land is still the best. Okay. All right. Anyone else? No? Yes? No? Okay, so Melinda had a question earlier about the all, the sutra that I shared on WhatsApp. What is the all? And she asked about what about dharmas like greed, hatred, loving kindness. What about all of that? And it's true, the all includes all of that. But if you, but the Buddha has defined the world. The Buddha has defined the all as our senses or the five skandhas. They are both different terminology, but pointing to the same thing. The five skandhas or our six senses represent how we engage with the world. Okay. In fact, they determine what the world is to us. Okay. The Shurangama, the Buddha calls it distortion. They affect or distort how we perceive the world. So in the WhatsApp reply, I said, for example, if you're born blind, then you perceive the world very differently from people who are born with sight. Animals, their skandhas are different from us. So they can perceive the world in colors that we cannot see or in different light wavelengths of light. Dogs can smell things. Pigs have a sense of smell which are far superior, pigs and dogs, to humans, for example. Birds, certain birds like eagles, have very, very sharp eyesight, that we can't even imagine. That from high up in the sky, they can see a little rat on the ground. Like, we can't even read a book from, maybe 20 feet away. So our skandhas determine how we perceive the world. So that is why in the Shurangama Sutra, it describes as you practice, as you meditate, and you break down your skandhas, or you start to eliminate your skandhas, then you are no longer bound by your physical skandha, by the skandha of form. And you start to experience the world in different layers. You can start to see more things that used to be invisible to the human eye. You can hear more things. Your mind can even start understanding other people's minds. That's what the Shurangama Sutra is explaining. And when that happens, then that's when your skandhas are different. And that's where you get super normal abilities, the spiritual abilities. Yeah, because your engagement, the world is different for you then. So the five skandhas or six senses determines how we engage with the world. If you look outside, the all is the physical world around us. If you look inside, then it's our minds and our our minds and our body. Yeah. So because everyone is different, then as we engage with the world, all our different karmic seeds that we have planted start to show itself. So we have different personalities. Some people are more prone to patience. Some people are more prone to different emotions. And in one of the slides that I have, actually, let me see. I'll just show it next week. The Buddha talks about how when you one of the acts of generosity that you can give is the giving of dharma. But it says the dharma has to be given right. It's just like medicine to a sick person. So for someone who has a lot of lust, you have to give the right medicine. For someone who is who thinks there's a soul, this is the teaching that you have to teach the person. So we'll cover that next week. All right. So Melinda, when you spoke about like loving kindness and all the specifics of the Dharma, that's where you apply it in terms of the all. Okay. All right. So good. I'm only 3 minutes beyond time today. All right. So let me get my slide to transfer merit. Okay. I'm gonna put my palms together and invite everyone to do the same. May every living being, our minds as one and radiant with light, share the fruits of peace with hearts of goodness, luminous and bright. If people hear and see, our hands and hearts can find in giving unity. May our minds awake to great compassion, wisdom, and to joy. May kindness find reward. May all who sorrow leave their grief and pain. May this boundless light dispel the darkness of our endless night. Because our hearts are one, this world of pain turns into paradise. May all become compassionate and wise. May all become compassionate and wise. Let's do 3 bows to the Buddha. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Bowing respect to the Venerable Master. Second bow. Third bow. Half bow. Okay, everyone, Amitofo, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.